Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? It's a marathon. There's a lot to go. Keep your energy up. Have coffee. It's wonderful to be here. It's so great to be in the conversations that we get to have here on Stage X. And I'm so excited to talk to you this morning, Omar, about what you're doing at Pearson. My first observation is about 10 years ago, I had been at Google, I had been at Etsy, and I fell in love with a company in the education space and transitioned my career from pure technology to the combination of education and technology. And so when I read your bio and as we talked, I saw that you're making a similar transition. You were the president of industry solutions at Microsoft. You were the CEO of the CMT practice at Accenture. Incredible positions in technology, and now you've taken on Pearson, a storied name in the education sector. What motivated that for you?
Good morning, everyone, and thanks, Adam. It wasn't the fact that I learned that Pearson used to have Baywatch in its portfolio.
True story, by the way.
And Madame Tussauds and various wine farms and things. But you're right, Pearson has got an incredible history from 1844 to today. But when I sort of stepped back to say, like, why would I do this? There were three things that came to mind. Firstly, I love the mission. Pearson's purpose is to help people realize the life they imagine through learning. And, Microsoft and Accenture are incredibly mission-driven companies, but the impact is indirect. With Pearson, it's very direct. You can see the student that you help. You can see the nurse who gets accredited. You can see the engineer who develops cloud skills to get to the next stage of their career. And that's very motivating. The second thing was the whole business of Pearson is an incredibly broad scope company. It's across 100-odd countries. It serves K-12, higher ed, and workforce. And so it's an incredible platform with a lot of strategic options and a strong financial base. And then I felt, okay, you could really make a contribution here and make a difference. And then the third thing was AI. I was running the teams at Microsoft that were responsible for bringing AI to big corporations. And when I stepped back to think about what industry could be most impacted in a positive way by the use of AI in a good way, I felt education and learning was right there. And I felt maybe I can be useful here.
Amazing. Let me ask a question of the audience. How many of you have used a Pearson product at some point in your life? Okay,
Thank you.
If you're not raising your hand, you did. You just didn't realize it. How many of you have used that as either as an educator or a purchaser of the product as opposed to a student? Okay, so a number of people. So Pearson is a part of our lives, and we are at a point where AI is changing so much. And Pearson, I know, is evolving as well. So as we think about the Pearson that we knew and the Pearson is becoming, where are you on that journey? What's central to that journey for you right now?
So the first thing I should say is, I joined Pearson 15 months ago, so I still feel very much like a beginner in this space. I'm learning a lot. I love spending time with our customers and partners just to learn more about the industry. But so one of the bits of feedback I had initially was that Pearson sometimes seems a bit complex. But when I actually lifted the hood and looked under the covers, it's not really that complicated. We do just three things. We create and curate content in the form of learning and assessments. And that's a huge part of what all the different Pearson assets do. The next thing we do is we distribute that content mainly digitally. And so well north of 80% of Pearson revenues come from selling software or services powered by software in one form or another. And then the third thing that we do is we help build and verify skills. And so for me, that's the core of what Pearson does. And so then the question is how do you apply technology and AI to help do that better, faster, cheaper for customers? And that's the heart of what we're focused on.
So AI is, of course, it's not just the buzzword of the day. It is literally changing our lives. I was running research reports last night that would have taken weeks to do using, at the time, Google Gemini. And we were on a panel yesterday talking about the future of AI and the idea that as we think about jobs of the future and what... Opa! So as you think about generating... as you think about the future that we're looking at and how AI is going to affect it, I can't even imagine what the jobs are going to be, right? The world, I have a today paradigm to think about a future I can't predict, and yet you're now in the business of training people or helping people get trained for that future. How do you think about that, and how does AI play into that?
You know, it wasn't that long ago that you wouldn't have been able to imagine what a web designer was or a mobile phone component manufacturer. And, you know, the history of humanity has shown over and over and over is that with every wave of technology, it causes some dislocation, and it causes, you know, incredible new waves of job opportunities that you couldn't forecast and foresee. And now the AI one is astonishing with its pace, and the readiness of institutions and civil society and humans to adapt to that, I think, is going to be challenging, and we need to really be mindful of, you know, how we help people adapt to a whole series, as you said, a whole series of skills that we don't even know we need yet. And so that brings me straight back to one of the core parts of what we're focusing Pearson on, which is the one thing we know that every person is going to need is to be good at learning. So learning to learn is a pivotal set of skills.
I love that, learning to learn.
Yeah, learning to learn. And learning scientists have taught us an enormous amount about actually how to do it. And some of it's behavioral and some of it's metacognitive. And you could embed a lot of those techniques into the products that you use for learning and education today. I would love to see us being much more intentional across our educational establishments, formal, vocational, and workplace, to help people develop the skills for learning to learn. And I think that is the best way you can help prepare people for an era of AI where the half-life of skills is declining fast. You see that most explicitly in the world of technology, but it happens, you know, everywhere else. And so it's not far away where you're going to be learning economics with AI and finance with AI and HR with AI. And so I think that's the things that we need to help prepare the world for.
There's a bunch of questions I wanted to ask all at the same time, so I'll choose one at a time. I think often educators themselves are trying to figure out how to be a part of that journey. How are you including the educator into the journey, or is that a part of the way you think, or are you increasingly thinking directly about workforce and students? Are they different components to you?
Oh gosh, I mean, there's so many things I want to say about that. I think the world of technology is filled with like incredible, brilliant people who, you know, can conceptualize new ways of doing things, you know, from a standing start. That optimism sometimes results in you know, assumptions about like how easy it will be for, you know, this particular widget or tool or product to, like, you know, solve giant problems. And actually, the real life often doesn't play out that way. It takes much longer for technology to diffuse and get used because those of us who, you know, work in education, we have our own ways of our practices, our approaches. There's a vast number of things going on in and outside the classroom beyond just the technology. And so Pearson, I think, tries hard to think about how can we be on the side of educators, recognizing that to help the 8 billion people on the planet adapt to the world of AI, you need the hundreds of millions of educators to help humans develop the skills for learning to learn. And so we're spending a lot of time thinking about how can we be really helpful and effective on that. And so I'm happy to sort of double click on it, but that's the heart of our mission, is helping educators help humans advance their skills to develop learning.
That's great. And, you know, we were talking in the green room about some of the interesting products you guys are putting out right now. Is there one or two you want to share so people can conceptualize how Pearson's putting this practice into the world?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in the early stages of adoption of AI in our technologies, but we are making it pervasive across basically every single thing that you've heard of from Pearson. And so, I mean, a couple of the ones that come to mind that I really like is we help GED learners. And so these are people who are later in life, normally for pretty tough reasons, go and collect their high school diploma. But one of the things that we've learned from them is they love engaging with an AI to learn because it's less embarrassing to show things that you don't know about. And so AI can prove to be incredibly useful in that context. The highest usage of our AI study tools, I like to think of them as a kind of our AI office hours, happens between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. in the morning. So you're stuck on something in chemistry and biology, your office hours professor is not available at that time, and you go to AI tool and it leads you through a Socratic dialogue to help you solve the thing that you're stuck on. That has proved to be incredibly effective. in our...
Can I just double click? I mean, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m., is that resonant for all of us? That was when I was using AI last night, so I think that's right.
I mean, I didn't take you as a higher ed student, Adam, but I mean...
We're always learning. We're on a lifetime learning journey now, right?
Well, I mean, you're 100% right. I mean, obviously, the whole thing about if you believe that AI is going to change a lot, then of course we have to be on a lifelong learning journey. And actually, I think that's an opportunity for a lot of institutions, is that instead of a single slingshot approach to education where you take a kid and you go through formal education once and then you expect that to last over the 100-year life, actually is to turn our institutions into places where people keep coming back for lifelong learning at different stages of their life as we need to refresh our skills for future industries.
That is wonderful. There was a translation tool you had mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, so...
I speak a lot of languages, so I get excited about that. So.
Ça m'a fait beaucoup de plaisir. No, I mean, you've got our English language learning app, so we've got digital avatars where you can say, like, I'm going to go and do a business review. Let's simulate that together, and the avatar will talk to you about it. Or I'm going to go and set objectives with my staff, and let's go and talk about that. And so we're having, real-world scenarios embedded in language learning apps where the AI avatar will engage with you and allow you to develop your language skills. And as you know, people learning English, which is the language of business, it can fundamentally advance their lives. And so, again, we feel it's very important to help folks with that.
Yeah, and I mean, you really hit on that point of embarrassment, too, because I think language learning or doing math in a classroom, embarrassment is a huge factor. And as you said, those AI tools really allow you to practice on your own, build your confidence, get feedback that feels safer. Are there stats or stories you're seeing on that carry that to life?
Like I said, we're a little bit early. The things that we're seeing, and then we've said this publicly, is that for our properties that have AI study tools in them, we're seeing double-digit growth in those areas, which tells us something about the affection that students have for that. Anecdotally, when I read the feedback of what students are saying to us, it's language like, this saved my life. I had given up on this course, I'd given up on that professor, and you helped me go and pass the exam. And so I think, I mean, for the educators in here know much better than I do. A lot of students, professors show up, they want to teach people and help people learn. A lot of students show up and they just want to get past the exam. And so how you bring those two tasks together is, I think, a function that people like us can contribute to in a big way. So help the learning process really work, not by giving people the answer, by guiding them to the answer and helping them understand what skills they really have and which ones they need to develop, but then also giving them the base knowledge needed to get the skills to pass the exam.
You said something as well as we were talking earlier that I thought was interesting. How many folks are in the startup ecosystem here this morning? Okay, a few. It's probably a little early for the startup crew. We'll see them at 10 o'clock tonight. But we were talking about your interest in learning with and from and partnering with startups. And that's not something I think we've always historically associated with sort of the bigger companies in the sector.
Some years ago, I had the joy of co-authoring a book, and it was all about how to not die from disruption, basically. And the heart of that was that if you're a big organization, whether you're a company or a not-for-profit, you have to lean into innovation. Innovation happens in the startup ecosystem. It doesn't actually really happen in big corporations because of our cost of capital. And so you have to be good at working with startups. And so if you're going to engage with startups, the thing that I always try and preach to the team around me is we're not engaging with them to teach them, we're engaging with them so they teach us. And they can teach us, yes, about AI, but also about culture, of how to be nimble, how to be entrepreneurial. And those are things that are incredibly valuable to any big organization.
Amazing. So one of the things I always love with these sessions to leave with is the idea that people can engage with the work that you're doing. And we were talking about a white paper that you put out that I would love for you to share a little bit about.
Yeah, a few months ago we published something called Lost in Transition. And it's about the people who get lost along the way from learning to earning. Actually, when you look at the lost wages in the US economy alone, from people who don't make it from school to jobs or don't make it fast from vocational work into paid work, people who drop out of high school, drop out of university, people who get made unemployed by restructurings or technology dislocations, that costs the US economy $1.1 trillion a year. It's a vast amount. And so anything that we can do to shorten the transition time from typically 24 weeks from higher ed into a job, say to 18 weeks, that saves the US economy $40 billion. And so you can make a huge dent just addressing those drop-off points where people get, fall into the cracks.
And that's publicly available on your website?
Yeah, it's on the website, and we talk about 2 things to do: learning to learn, and a whole set of things there, and alternative skilling pathways, recognizing that we don't need to treat kids like battery chickens on one pathway, but to find all the alternative routes, particularly in the blue-collar and new-collar spaces, which the economy desperately needs.
Amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time, Omar. This is great. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great morning.